Welcome, Stacey, to my YouTube channel. I met Stacey from a Facebook post that I posted in one of the Jehovah's Witness Facebook groups about my program. And she reached out to me because she works as a healer and said, if you need anything, I would love to be of assistance. And I was like, oh my gosh, she seemed like the perfect person I want to interview for my YouTube channel. You must have like a great story. So here is Stacey, and I wanted to bring her on so she can share her story as a Jehovah's Witness. I'm also going to say that I am in a new location and the cicadas are really loud. So most of the time I'm going to be on mute and we're going to be hearing from Stacey. So Stacey, if you can jump right in and share your story as a Jehovah's Witness, I would love to hear it.
Hey, I was not raised a Jehovah's Witness. My mother suddenly died when I was age 17, about a month before I graduated from high school. So when she died, I remember with my maternal grandmother, I had kind of a religious background of going to church, but my mother wasn't a regular churchgoer. I didn't live with my grandmother, so I wasn't a regular churchgoer, but I had a point of reference for church. And so when my mom died, at such a tender age, it scared the shit out of me. And I was like, okay, I'm going back to church. Didn't even know really what that meant, but I just knew I needed a parent. So Heavenly Father, here I come. Coincidentally, and I didn't know this, my mother's parents, my grandparents, were Jehovah's Witnesses. I didn't know that. So when they came to Houston, where I lived when my mom died, while I finished high school, my grandmother did, not my grandfather, but she attended the Kingdom Hall, and she invited me to go. And I went, and I was really impressed. I like the fact that study and discussion was the focus versus music. I felt like in my grandmother's church, my dad's mom, the church that I kind of visited periodically, was a typical African-American Baptist church. So there was a lot of music, and it seemed like music amped things up. I didn't understand, but I could see the correlation between music and all of this activity. And I kind of felt like, I don't think God needs music to get things going. You know what I mean? So it just kind of didn't sit right with me. So I was really impressed with the witnesses, that it was well lit. Everybody had a Bible. There was a discussion. I was really impressed. So I graduated high school the next month. We moved back to my hometown in the Midwest, and I keep going to the Kingdom Hall. And little did I know, my grandfather was kind of working behind the scenes to get, one of his older friends to have a study with me and all of that. And I enjoyed it. It was, it felt very authentic compared to my other experiences with religion. So gung-ho, I came in. So I was a very young woman. I think I was 18 when I got baptized.
So I'm gonna cut you off right now. So this is like less than a year after your mom passes away. You just go full force into the religion and get baptized pretty quickly. Can I ask how your mom passed away?
Heart failure.
Wow. So it was very sudden. Was she
Yes.
sick at all before this?
No. I took her to work the night before, and she never came back home.
Wow.
So it was pretty traumatic.
I was gonna say, how were you doing during that time? Did you guys talk about your mom? Like, what was the situation like?
No, I stuffed a lot of that away. And it seems like the adults in my life didn't do much to encourage grieving. You know what I mean?
So your dad never talked about it with you, and neither did your mom's parents?
My dad had already passed when I was 12.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and no, if they did, I don't recall.
And how
I
did your
don't
dad
think,
pass?
he was sick. Yeah, he was sick.
Okay, so at 17, both of your parents passed away. Wow. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Well, and my grandmother, like, and my grandma that took me to church periodically. So that was some major losses at a very
Wow.
early age. And it
And
affected me. Of course, I didn't know it then, but I think that's why I am who I am today, because of those losses and having to deal with that type of trauma, and let that trauma kind of resurface years later, right?
right. Wow, that's a huge deal. So here you are coming to the Jehovah's Witness space as a 17-year-old with all
With
these.
3 major losses: intimate,
Wow.
mom, dad, grandma. Yeah.
And the Jehovah's Witnesses are like, we're gonna be able to see these people in the new order. Was that your
Sure.
kind of
It all
walk in?
resonated.
Okay,
It all resonated. It all sounded like they could show me it was
great.
in the Bible, and cool. It's the best deal I've seen in a long time.
And they also offered a family structure kind of for you as well. I know you said
Exactly.
they offered all the other things too, but now you have this new family and they had the hope of living on a paradise earth. What more could a
Absolutely.
17-year-old, and you were
Exactly.
graduating high school, so it was kind of like a perfect transition into you being a pioneer or whatever it is
Right.
that they saw you to be as this young
Right.
boisterous teenager. So walk us back to, I'm sorry that I had to cut you off, but
That's okay. No, I
what a
appreciate it.
story from just that young of an age. And I take it you don't have any siblings?
I have one sibling. He's 8 years younger than I am. So
Okay.
he was 9 when mom died.
Okay. And he lived with
So
your
I felt,
grandparents?
yes, yes.
Okay.
So now it's the summer of after I graduated high school, and
Mhm.
I'm preparing to go to college. And I decide to stay in St. Louis to go to college. So my brother's nearby. I'm near my brother. Um, and so I'm in college studying and going to the Kingdom Hall. And I'm a young woman, vibrant, And of course, I meet someone at the Kingdom Hall. So I get baptized at 18. No, yeah, I get baptized at 18, and the next month I got married.
What?
So I'll turn 19 a month after I got married.
Oh my goodness. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Talking about moving really fast to kind of cover up some
Major
things that needed to be
trauma.
addressed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Looking back at that 18, 19-year-old girl that met this guy, what do you feel like is the real reason why you jumped into this marriage?
His love felt very much like my mom's love.
Okay.
It's only in hindsight, of course. I had no clue in the moment, but in hindsight, his love felt very much like my mom's love. It was pretty unconditional. Like he is a very wonderful person. We're
That's a
divorced
beautiful
now, of
thing.
course, but he's a wonderful person, and he
Okay.
loved me unconditionally.
So then what happened? You got married at 19, and then what happened after that?
Yeah. Had a couple of kids, had one child, regular pioneered while I was pregnant, and the baby was a newborn, and we were out in service. We used to pick him up by a snowsuit like this, when he's a few months old, and sit him on the literature counter. So had a couple of kids, regular pioneered, had a really good witness life. My ex-husband had a big witness family. So I was welcomed and felt very comfortable. I didn't come from a big family, so I was really uncomfortable with all of these people being my family, you know. I thought it was a nice thing, but it wasn't my comfort zone because there was just two of us in my family, my brother and I. So it was a big, big difference. I remember being in the congregation thinking, because he would introduce me, he would say, well, this is my mom. But it was his like pretend mom, because you have a bunch of moms in the congregation, right? And so when we got to the third mom, I'm like, what's going on? What? Like, how do you? And he goes, oh, yeah, these are all my family. And I just thought that was a little odd, just because that wasn't my point of reference. But overall, I had a really good witness experience. They loved my children, witness parts of the witness congregation, took my kids as their own. It was really a good experience.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. So you
It's okay.
raised your kids in the organization, and it
Yeah.
sounds like you had a really good kid. The kids had a really good life. So you have two kids at this point?
Yes.
Okay. And at what age did you decide you wanted a divorce? And then what happened after that?
Yeah. Well, I think I had a decent experience, and I say, decent isn't the word. I had a good witness experience, but I think I say decent because I've learned that so many witnesses have had really traumatic experiences in the organization, and I feel for them, but I just didn't have that. So I don't want to diminish my experience while empathizing with those who had such a bad experience. Where was I going to go with that?
And I want to just maybe add too that there's a lot of people that might just focus on the bad experiences, and actually their experience as a witness was not that terrible, but they tend to focus on all the negative things. And as we were talking about earlier, before we even started, the ex-Jehovah's Witness community can hold a lot of anger and negativity and say they stole my life and they was lied to and all that kind of stuff. And sure, we can focus on all that stuff.
Yeah.
But too, like I can focus on the really positive things that I got from being a witness and being raised as a witness, and it sounds like you are the same way.
Yeah.
So it's actually like a great thing that you can take that and have
I don't want to make it something that it wasn't. It was what I needed at the time, and it sustained me, and it grew me, and it was part of all the other experiences I've had. I love who I am today because I've had those other experiences. The deaths make me who I am today. Those weren't fun, but I respect and appreciate those experiences because I'm a unique person, because I've had 3 close people die before I was age 18. And the witnesses fall in that category. Like, that was a part of my life, and it was a good part of my life. And there were some challenges, but whenever you bring people together, there's going to be challenges because there's differences of opinions, different experiences. So I definitely don't want to belittle my experience. It was good. It was good. I was loved. I was cared for. And when there were times when I wasn't, because I didn't grow up a witness, I had a point of reference, so I knew how to stand up for myself. And, that's all. Someone treated me bad one time, and that was it. We're not doing this. I can love you from afar. I will not be treated badly and continue to come around. So I just didn't have a lot of bad experiences.
And that's great. So I was going to ask at that point, I had asked a little bit about your divorce. So if you can go back into that and talk about what happened. During that
time.
I
don't want to go too detailed into it because I respect that. Absolutely. It's not just my story, but we got a divorce. about 13 years into our marriage. And one thing that really stands out in my witness experience was after judicial meeting was held, and I was encouraged to, me and my husband were encouraged to stay together, and we agreed to stay together, even though it was challenging. One elder took it upon himself to meet with us on his own. And I remember thinking, I didn't know much about judicial stuff, but I remember thinking, we've already had a judicial meeting about this. And he invited us at the Kingdom Hall, so it looked official, but I knew that we had handled it already. So it was him and me and my husband, and there was a lot of pressure on us to stay together. And, we agreed to stay together, but I think it was unfair for him to put that undue pressure on us.
I completely understand where you're coming from, because I shared my story and I was the one who asked for a divorce. And I had, and the elders are also the ones that told me that I needed to stay in the marriage, and I didn't want to. And that's what got me being disfellowshipped. So the pressure that they put on people to stay married, if you don't want to stay married, or if one partner cheats or the other one is innocent, it's just like, it's a lot. And, or the abuse happens. I mean, the last interview that I just uploaded, the wife was getting super abused, and the elders said that she needed to be more submissive. So the reason why people get a divorce is like a legitimate reason, like, or you can just want a divorce. I mean, people get a divorce for reasons. There's reasons why people get divorced.
Right.
And the elders saying like, you need to stay in the marriage is ridiculous. It's like, no, I want a divorce. I don't care what you guys think. I want a divorce.
Right.
It's a lot. So you stayed together, and that was after the 13 years? Or was that?
Well, it didn't last, because I don't think we were supposed to stay together.
Okay.
Like it was challenging and we didn't stay together.
Okay. So it lasted for a couple months?
Yeah. I don't remember the time frame, but it wasn't a year or two, Okay. It wasn't a couple of months, but it definitely wasn't a year or two. Like we really tried,
Got it.
To give it the good try. And, eventually it was just like this, I don't think God wants me to feel this way. You know what I mean? You could tell me whatever you want, but I don't think if he loves me, he don't want me to feel this way. So because I did what they didn't want me to do, I didn't go to the hall because I didn't want to be challenged. I didn't want to talk about it. I made up my mind. So my ex-husband continued to go to the hall and take the kids, but I didn't go for a few years. And we got a good co-parenting arrangement going. And then I started going back. And it was interesting because of this big family he had and his years, this family's years of being in the Jehovah's Witnesses in that area. They were very popular. I was known as, so-and-so's wife, because I was the newbie on the scene. So more people knew me than I knew them. But it was interesting that when I started to go back, I went to a different congregation than our home congregation, and I felt exposed without him. Like I did not know he blocked me from the sea of people. And you can see how I'm talking about this group as if there's this big entity of all these people, because that was not my norm. We were a very small, intimate family. So to step into this other family that was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who knew your name, and you smile and go, hey, and you're like, I don't know, but and there was pressure to, if you didn't know them, be friendly, get to know them. I mean, they're your brother and sister. So just because of the way I was raised, that felt a little daunting. So I really felt exposed going to the Kingdom Hall without a husband because he blocked me from this sea of people. So that was a little uncomfortable. And I was just like, oh, okay. I don't know what to do with this, but it was a new reality. And then a few months, maybe a year later, I couldn't keep my eyes awake at the meetings. Like it just became so tedious. And I don't know what that was. But, and you know, when sleep comes to me and there's a battle between me and sleep, sleep usually wins, right? So I got really frustrated with fighting sleep every meeting. And I just took that as something's not right and I'm not supposed to be here. Like I just wasn't getting what I used to get. I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't mad at anybody. I didn't have any issues with the doctrines. It just wasn't working for me. Like the coat I was wearing did not feel good anymore. It was scratchy some days. It was too tight other days. It felt heavy some days, you know, and it's just like, I gotta get rid of this coat. So I just made the decision to not go. And I didn't know like why or anything. I just listened to myself. And so I stopped for quite a few years with just kind of faded out.
So how long did you go back into the Kingdom Hall and the congregation from when you left your husband to when you faded? How many years was that?
You know, I couldn't tell you. I don't know if it was 3 or 5 or 7. You know, I don't look back much at that time to assess it. You know, it just didn't work for me anymore. So I moved away from it and moved on to something that worked for me. And it wasn't the witnesses. I did miss some of the people because I made dear friends and became sisters to some people, but I also knew the doctrine would not allow us to be in company and me be my authentic self, and their authentic self was to get me back. And I would run into people at the grocery store, and I remember saying, you know, you've got 5 minutes to witness to me and then we're done. You know, I know you need to do what you got to do, but you know, I know what you know. And I made a decision. So why are we still talking? So you've got 5 minutes. So if that's what you need to do, you've got 5 minutes and that's it. So thank goodness I didn't run into them often, or I would have been labeled something. But I don't know. I may have been labeled, it just didn't know it. But so I just had a different life, you know. And if you don't go to 5 meetings a week, you know, you just kind of get out of it. My grandparents were still witnesses. But I think they were respectful, and they probably knew that, you know, I'd listen out of respect and courtesy, but I was still going to do what I wanted to do. So I didn't get a lot of flack from them.
That's great, especially because they were more or less your parents at some point. For them to respect you and to give you that kind of space is beautiful.
Yeah.
Was there any of your friends that gave you any kind of rude things or said anything to you? Because you were a witness for quite a while. I would assume like your closest friends were witnesses.
Yeah, they were. You know, I didn't get a lot of flack. I don't know why that was. I don't know if maybe our friendship was maybe not as close as I thought, or maybe just people kind of knew that they needed to respect my position because I wasn't going to budge unless I chose to. I don't know what or the deal was.
The universe was like, Stacey has had way too much shit piled on her plate in her lifetime. We're just going to take it easy. because we know
Perhaps.
that every single person can only endure so much. And
I like
Stacey
that.
has been through a lot before the age of 18. So we're just
I
gonna
like that.
we're gonna allow her to slowly walk out of this organization with
Yeah,
not
yeah.
any
Without
not like
any
some bruises
issues.
or any issues, because you had been through way too much already. So that
Yeah,
was just something that I felt like, yeah, that's definitely
yeah,
something that could have been
yeah.
happening, because it sounds like your divorce also wasn't this like crazy toxic, which I've heard so many times, fighting with each other. Now you have
No,
kids, which makes it another layer. Now we have the Jehovah's Witnesses, which adds another layer. So
no.
sounds like life has been kind of rewarding you
Yeah,
after, because you've already
yeah,
done all the hard intense stuff before.
yeah, yeah.
And your brother, was he still in the religion, or did he ever join?
He never got baptized, so
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So
So
then
he
you're
kind of was on the peripheral. And then I think he moved to another state to be with his dad at a later time. So he didn't get completely indoctrinated.
okay. So he's your half brother.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. And then when you going back to where you left off, so you would see the witnesses on occasion at the grocery store, have conversations
Right.
with them, and
Right.
then just kind of move forward. So then what happened after that? That was like 10 or so years ago. What has been the process in these 10 years? Tell us what's been happening to you.
Yeah. Yeah. There have been periods where I remember feeling my witness programming show up, you know. I think 9/11 was something that made me think about the witnesses. And it's like, 2000, you remember Y2K? I remember that made me think about the witnesses and the end and all of that. But in both of those instances, I kind of like, if it is, then, let's just face it head on. It is what it is. And I agreed to whatever would happen when I left, but I didn't want to live in fear. So I remember Y2K happening on New Year's Eve, and I took me and my kids to the riverfront and we watched the fireworks. I was like, if it's coming, we're going to be enjoying ourselves as the end comes. I faced it head on. I just didn't want to be fearful.
Okay, so this was about 20 years ago was that kind of in the transition of you stopping to go to the meetings?
That was when I stopped going to the meetings, and I think I did go back after Y2K. Yeah.
Okay. What
I
was
think
the
I did go
incentive of
back.
going back? What was the reason?
Honestly, it's interesting you asked that. That's a good question, because things were going really well in my life. I was very happy, and I felt like, well, the only thing I need to do to zip this completely up, right, to make it complete, is to go back and serve Jehovah, because I was appreciative that I had a happy life. So that was the rationale. And so I went back, and that's when that coat didn't fit right. That coat was heavy. That coat was scratchy. And I was like, I'm puzzled, because I'm coming back because I'm grateful. And this ain't fitting. So I stepped away and not sure what I was going to do next, but it was like, it just was too uncomfortable to stay there. And it wasn't the people, and it wasn't the doctrine, and it wasn't anything traumatic. It just didn't feel good.
So here you are back at the Kingdom Hall. Now you're like, okay, I need to do this fading thing all over again. And your kids are, I would assume, teenagers at this point.
Oh, Lord.
They were still living at home.
Yeah.
You still had them. And what were the kids like? Did they have friends in the Kingdom Hall? Did you feel obligated did you think about them? Like, did you say, oh, I should probably stay in the organization because they're having their friends now? Like, did you think about them? Like, what was your
No, I didn't. I knew that they were under my wing and I was the leader. And if I did what was best for me, I knew that then I would have the capacity to take care of them. But
Okay.
unhappy me did not feel like it would be best for them.
Okay.
So they had friends at the Kingdom Hall, but because I came in at 17, I became a witness at 17. I recognized the value of not being 1,000% indoctrinated in the witnesses. I saw the difference in the kids who had the witnesses, and that's all. And they seemed a little socially awkward, just, not fully well-rounded. So when my children had friends in the neighborhood and at school, we didn't really go out of our way, but I definitely wasn't cutting ties. I wanted them to be well-rounded human beings. I felt like that was better than the bubble that the witnesses kind of wanted to keep their kids in. So they had witness friends. They also had school friends. And I don't know if I consciously did that. I think that was pretty subconscious, but
It sounds like you are a good all-around mom, where you're just like, no, you can't hang out with the school friends because they're worldly, and the Jehovah's Witnesses friends is all you can have.
Yeah.
So I applaud you for that.
Yeah. I definitely did some caution, be cautious
Of course.
of the worldly kids, but I also think it was like we knew there were witness kids that still had problems as well.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
the witness kids and the worldly kids and the everyone kids, it's like there's
Right.
just some
Right.
bad people out there in the world. You just have to watch your back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then what was it like to fade all over it again?
Well, keep in mind, I didn't know that word faded, and I couldn't care what that meant. It's just I was uncomfortable, so I had to move away. So I wasn't concerned about other people. I was really uncomfortable and didn't understand why, but I got that message over and over. I really tried to sit with the discomfort and waiting for it to dissipate, pass, change. And, it just didn't. And it became very tedious following the Jehovah's Witness routine. It just was exhausting. And so I was like, I'm an adult. Why should I be in an uncomfortable situation over and over and over and over? It just didn't seem smart. So I just moved on, and keep in mind, like I was trying to stay at the meetings and go out in service, but eventually maybe one meeting I stopped going. So I slowly was getting away from the witnesses and filling that time with other things. So it wasn't a big drastic change. It was just being uncomfortable.
And you were still in the same town that you were part of the congregation. So were you still seeing the people in the congregation?
A lot, not a lot. I was surprised that I didn't run into as many, but
okay.
Yeah, I did periodically. Yeah.
Got it.
And I would get what hall are you going to? And I said, I'm not. And it's like, oh. And I go, you got 5 minutes.
I love it. And then what has happened to you between that point and now?
Well, I recognized, or I guess I made peace with the fact that I was leaving my God, right? According to what the organization said. And it was like, you're uncomfortable, but you might die. And I'm like, but I can't be uncomfortable until I die. So if I die, I'd rather die being really happy and content. And, I think this would be better. Like, it just doesn't make sense that way. So I kind of said, whatever happens is going to happen. If the end is going to come and everything that the witnesses teach is the truth, then I sign up I take accountability. for my life. I take responsibility for my life and my happiness. So having done that, I think over time, I started being a little more open-minded, because it's like, if I'm willing to die, because I'm not going to serve God the way Jehovah's Witnesses say, my mind started asking questions of things. Are aliens real? Is the earth flat? Dinosaurs exist? What are ghosts? You know? And I was just like, who's asking those questions? So I opened a little box and I let it keep opening and opening and opening. And I was surprised that I was that open. I was surprised that my reaction was, I have more questions. I have more questions. I want to dig deeper. I want to understand. So that kind of created a whole new, I guess I spent a lot of time asking questions that I was never allowed to ask. I didn't even know to ask. And it wasn't that someone said, don't ask. It didn't come in my boxed mind. But I kicked one of those flaps off the box and I was like, well, let's kick this one over here and see what happens. So as a result of that, and I've always been a proponent of therapy, always, because losing my mom so early, I knew that I lost a big helper and a big influencer and a big perspective of who I am. I knew I lost that. So when I got stuck in life, of course, I talked to older family members, but I would also go, man, you know, professional athletes have professional trainers to help them be the best athlete possible. I want to be the best person I can be. Why don't they have coaching for people? And so I used the term life coach 1,000 years ago. I was like, I need a life coach. I need a life trainer. I need somebody to show me how to do this thing called life. Because I knew I was missing a leg and an arm because I lost my mom at such a early age. I knew I was handicapped and how to figure that out. So I was mentioning therapy. Where was I going with that? I'm sorry, what did you ask me? I'm sorry, I went down a tangent there.
No. You were talking about, you were saying that you were getting a life coach, and you used that analogy like a million years ago. And
yes.
What does that mean for you? And
yes.
who came into your life at that point that
so
showed
I'm
you
at
the
my
ropes?
chiropractor's office. Yes, thank you for helping me. So I'm at my chiropractor's office. And my brother and I are at my chiropractor's office. Oh, this is such a funny story I forgot about. So there was a life coach at the office, like that worked there. But she didn't call herself a life coach. She called herself something else, a health coach or something. So anyway, my brother's health wasn't really well, and I thought I was going to lose him. And because I'd had all these other losses to death, I thought, we're going to do this differently. I want to have a party to honor my brother while he's alive. I thought I was going to lose him. So that's where that's coming from. He's fine. He's got a lot of health challenges, but he's fine. But I really thought I was going to lose him. My mom would have been 75 years old that year. So I made up the story that let's do a memorial for our mom and invite the whole family and everybody and get all dressed up and have a dinner and just have this beautiful celebration for our mom. And he was like, ooh, that's a good idea. But in the back of my mind, this is for him, you know? So I'm thinking, give my brother his flowers now. Give him the love now. Don't wait till the funeral, and all this outpouring of love and emotion and support and, that type of thing. It's
That
too
was so
late. Let's
beautiful.
do it for him now.
Wow.
So that was my agenda. So we're at the chiropractor's office, and this health coach, but in my mind, she was my life coach, okay? I was like, what do you do again? And she tells me what she does. And I said, I could use some support because I'm doing this thing for my mom. And I'm really struggling with the basics. Like, I can't even make an invitation list because I just keep getting stuck. I did not know that I was walking into the healing of my mom's death with this idea. Had no idea. So she's helping me and coaching me on this. And I was like, a part of me said, I'm sure this is going to be challenging for me because she's dead and, it'll bring up some stuff. Well, that was the beginning of the healing of my mom's death. And I had not grieved for over 35 years. So
wow, that's so remarkable.
Yes.
Jeez. And
that was magical. That was not me. I feel like the divine let me walk in a room with my little notepad and my invitation list, sitting down with my coach. And I closed the door, and the divine just said, let me lock this, because she may not want to stay in there. And it was like, I turned around and I was like, this is grieving. This is healing. Like, I didn't sign up for this. And it's like, I did sign up for this. I chose this. I walked into this. I set this up. So now I've got the coach thinking she's going to help me with a little bit of grieving for my mom's party, AKA my brother's party, because I'm preparing for him to go, right? And here we are, just shedding 35 years of trauma with this life coach, who I said everybody should have a life coach in the world, right? So that was awesome. That was very magical that I, unbeknownst to me, initiated and set up my own opportunity for healing. That was beautiful. And I think that was my first clue as to, whoa, we are way more powerful than we realize. So, my brother and I are getting counseling. I finally confessed to him that I was afraid that you were succumbing to your illnesses. And I set this ruse up because I wanted everybody to just give you love and support while you can receive it. And he was gracious and said, I understand what you were doing and I love you for that and all of that. So that kind of began the healing journey. So my life coach, she talked to me about chakras, and I was like, I don't know what a chakra is. I've never heard of a chakra. And she goes, well, you don't have to know, but it's your heart is probably blocked. And I was like, that makes sense, because now I can't stop crying. Every time I walk in her room, as soon as I walk in, it's like, let the tears begin, So she says, I think you should get some energy work done. And it was interesting that I didn't go, the devil. I didn't. I sensed, something's probably a little scary about that. And then she says, well, she's my friend and I'm training to do this. So how would you feel if I came with you? And I went, yes. Whatever fear or concern I had, because I didn't know what it was. I had no clue. But of course, in hindsight, it was the devil, right? So she went with me. I had an energy session, and it was life-changing. I cried on the table the entire time, had no emotion. I had no connection to the tears, but there seemed to be a purging, a purging, a purging. And afterwards, it's interesting. I couldn't eat meat for a couple of days. Like my body was like an electrical battery. I was just charged. It was exactly what I needed. I lost quite a bit of weight. I didn't plan on it. Like the first 2 or 3 weeks, I was like, this is cool. And then after a while, it got scary because I'm like, what did I do? Because now my body's on automatic and I'm not in control and this is a little scary now. So I talked to my coach, I talked to my energy person, and they encouraged me to get grounded. And that was funny. Getting grounded, I would sit in the sun, in the grass, but the sun would charge me up so much that I couldn't sleep. So this energy work, my body was like, yes, more. This is what we've been waiting on. And pretty much my life changed after that. Like I became more intuitive. I became more sensitive. I had awareness that I didn't have before. And it was fun. It was like I was a whole new person going down in the same world, but it was like, oh, I've got keys to the secret to life and I get to use them at my age. And I was a mature woman, so it wasn't like I was young without life experience. It was nice to have life experience behind me when I kind of got this awakening process, because I wasn't as fearful. It was just magical. So not too long after that, I got some training in energy work, and I've been an energy practitioner for a few years, but not on a large scale, just small scale, word of mouth, family and friends. But I do feel like this is my natural state. It's like I did not know how empathetic I can be. I did not know how sensitive I can be. And it's a little challenging, when you're not used to being a sensitive person, to be sensitive and pick up other people's vibes and energy. And it's a little weird, but I'm grateful to have this new experience and to kind of have this new life, because I'm maneuvering as if I'm an adolescent. And it feels very youthful and fun because I don't know what I don't know, but I'm experimenting and playing. And so
I
my
love
goal.
it. I just want to interrupt you, Stacey, because I
Yeah.
am the same way. And at 42, I am more sensitive than I was when I was 22. And I could feel more, I could see more, I could taste more, I could just be with people. And I personally, I love it. And I would say the average quote unquote worldly person is becoming desensitized as they get older. So they're feeling less, they're being present less, they are, all their senses are actually declining. Whereas us, they're actually becoming more open and more open. And like you said, it's actually very playful, youthful, curious. It's weird, but the weirdness is like the best part. It's like, who wants to be normal? It's fun.
Right.
Normal is boring. Like we were boring for a really long time being a Jehovah's Witness, like wearing fucking boring clothes. Forget that life. Like I want to be bright and vibrant, and I want to feel, I want to have all the feelings. I want to be present, and that right there is what is a beautiful thing. And the weirdness actually adds another layer to the magic of it all. And now we're working with energies, because that is a real thing. That is a real thing. It's not this big woo-woo thing. It's a real thing. You don't have some magic wand and you're not like waving it in the air with some glitter coming out. Like this is real shit. So you're in this space, you're helping people in this space. I know you said this is your family and friends, but as I shared with you before, you have this beautiful presence. And I know that you are going to be captivating so many people once you actually step into this social media role and actually be on this, on more of a bigger platform. So tell me a little bit more about like where you are in this realm of being an energy healer. What kind of work do you do in this specific space?
Yes, well, I can do long distance energy healing as well as in person. I love the in person, but the long distance is just as if I'm in person. So I do that. I am currently studying to become a professional astrologer. Astrology is one of those things that I found, and I was so blown away that that someone or this chart can dictate so much about me and be accurate. I just thought that was fascinating. So that's a tool that has helped me quite a bit to get to know me, get to know my strengths, get to know my weaknesses, make peace with my weaknesses versus, well, just push through, just push through. It's like, you know, I'll never be a certain type of person. So what I can do is I can maybe take a baby step from where I am to be that person, but I'll probably never be, you know, the opposite of what I am. And so I'm very gentle and graceful with the Stacey that shows up now. You know, it's like I don't have these high demands where I'm supposed to just beat myself into submission and push through no matter how I'm feeling. It's like there are times where you have to push through on certain responsibilities, but that abusive shit, we're not doing that to me. You know, my goal also is to coach. I do really good with holding or creating safe spaces for people to share. My philosophy is we all have within us the answers to our most troubling questions. It's just so fearful to even ask yourself or to admit that you've struggled with certain things. So I want to create a space where people feel safe to admit to themselves things that they want to work on, their darkest secrets. And they, once you admit or acknowledge the thing, that's the first part. You're still in control. You can address it at that moment or you can not. Sometimes I don't address every issue I have. I don't want it today. But guess what? It'll come back. And I get to decide then, do I want to address it? Or do I maybe want to address a minuscule piece of it? Because that's still progress. So I want to do that for others. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but I am working on my website. And that's where I am. The name of my business will be Stacey Healed and Healing. So it'll be my journey to healing. And if you want to join me and get something from what I'm doing, that's great. I hope to get feedback from other people and benefit from their journey as well. So it's definitely going to be a give and take. And we'll see what that's going to look like.
I love that. And I'm a firm believer that once you step into your purpose, life is going to really, really open up to you in so many different kinds of ways. And it can take you into so many different avenues that you had no idea. Like when I started coaching 10 years ago, I had no idea that almost 10 years later, I would be in this ex-Jehovah's Witness space. And the majority of my clients are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses now, which is actually kind of cool and scary all at the same time.
Yes.
So it's like you never know, because I started as a wellness coach 10 years ago, and it's kind of led me to here. But it can take you into all kinds of different ways. And I shared with you earlier, I also work with psychedelics. So it's a broad spectrum. So not to only be one-sided. And I love the fact that you're working with astrology as well, because it's like nobody is just one thing. We're so many different things. So to acknowledge your gifts and all the things that you have to offer somebody is just, it's a beautiful thing. So to embark on this life right now from where you were when you left the ex-witnesses, like, could you see yourself here? What would you say to yourself like 10 years ago to the person that you are now? Did you think that you were going to be here, or would you say like there's no way that you would be here? Like, did you have an open mindset when you were leaving?
No. I would not have known that this Stacey existed in me. So, and I wasn't really yearning for a whole lot when I was a witness. I was content to be a witness. I was happy to be a witness until I wasn't, you know? And when I wasn't, it's like I tried just to hang in there, but it just didn't work. And it was interesting to step away and be selfish. It was a healthy selfish. And figure out, well, what are you going to do now? And it's like, I don't know. But I sat in that I don't know. And I was okay with that. I knew that I would still find a way to be productive, but I had no idea what it would look like. No idea.
I love that. I love that.
No idea.
I love that. So what would you say is a message that maybe you have to anybody that's watching this video? And like I was sharing earlier, like you have no idea who's going to watch this video. It could be somebody from your old congregation. It could be somebody that really resonates with your story. It might be somebody who's looking for something. So what kind of message do you have?
I would say you have to acknowledge that there's divinity in each one of us. And the things that we desire, the things that we love, the things that make us happy, as well as the things that make us uncomfortable, the things that we don't like, they're all part of our divinity, and they direct us to a better life. So listening to yourself is just as important as listening to the organization, the government, hospitals, doctors. I mean, it's not just a religious thing. There are many other entities that are vying to tell us what we need to do. But through those other entities, we listen to them, but we also listen to ourselves. But when it comes to religion, it seems that we are discouraged from listening to ourselves. And I would say your divinity exists within you. And you have to acknowledge that piece, as well as the other entities outside of you that are kind of doing what's best for you. And you got to reconcile all of that. And sometimes it's kind of a mishmash of things. And it's okay for it to be a mishmash. Sit with it. It's okay. Like, I learned to be comfortable with the uncomfortable because I had confidence that I wasn't going to die. You know what I mean? And I could shut it off whenever I said, okay, that's enough for today. I need to get back to my regular life and go to work and take care of my babies, but you're always in control. And to me, that's divine.
That's so true. And as the witnesses say, your heart is treacherous. It's like, actually, your heart is like the most beautiful thing possible. That's where you're gonna really feel your love and connection with yourself, with other people, with nature, with everything, with your past. You need to connect with your heart, or else it's just, your heart is treacherous. When you X out your heart and you're just focusing on the brainwashing that they're giving you, it's part of their whole ploy of keeping you in the organization, to tell you that your heart is treacherous and not listen to your gut instinct and all this other stuff. So I'm right there with you, Stacey. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. It was even more powerful. This is my first time hearing your story. Like I said, I had no idea who Stacey was before this interview. We had just been chatting through Messenger. So thank you so fucking much, Stacey. I know that your story is going to really resonate with a lot of people, especially like how you transitioned from like being a non-witness to a witness. That story right there is so powerful. So I just want to say thank you again, Tracy, for coming on my channel and for allowing me to interview you. I hope that you appreciated this interview, because I know I did. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you for creating the space. I appreciate it. And if anyone would like to email me,
yes, I'm gonna add your contact information and a link to maybe your social media in the description box, if that's okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. All right. Well,
Thank you.
thank you again for watching, and until next